I'm thrilled to be here with Monica Ticknor, and thank you everyone for your patience for that little glitch in the Wi-Fi world. Okay, Monica, bear with me because you have to listen to this again, and I know you're gonna hate it.
You, you sure you didn't get it last time? You sure didn't record? You can just leave it unfixed. Just leave it unfixed and
Leave
let's
it
just.
unfixed. No, Monica Ticknor is here with us today, and she is one of those people who makes you remember why you fell in love with books in the first place. And I know a lot of you here are book lovers. That's why we are on Substack. You love to read. Monica does it a little differently. She's the force behind Charter Book Club Adventures, which, for those of you who don't know, that's how I learned about Monica. She reached out to me about 6 weeks ago and said, "Hey, what do you think about doing a virtual book club experience and then ending that on a freaking sailboat?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? And by the way, do you know my book? Do you know what happens in that book?" So it was destiny. And fast forward 6 weeks later, and I'm kind of in love with this person. At her core, she's a lifelong educator, coach, and a very curious human who genuinely believes that stories are meant to be shared. For years, she taught junior high language arts and history, but she was definitely one of those cool teachers whose classroom was never just about the curriculum. It was a place to ask real, honest questions, have deep conversations, and use books as a way to thinking about life and about our own lives. I wish you had been my teacher. And that same energy showed up when she was coaching on the soccer field, basketball court, always teaching resilience, teamwork, curiosity, and how to show up when things get hard. So, adventure has always been a part of Monica's story, from sports to travel to living inside books. And this widening of perspective and this bringing of people together is really at the heart of Charter Book Club Adventures, which is what she created. And from this belief that reading doesn't have to be solitary. And I read by myself a lot. So jumping into this book club next month is going to be really, really a wild experience to read in a community and create magic and um, just honest connection together. So I'm imagining when we gather next month, my book and all the books that you do this with become doorways where reading together turns into something much bigger than the book itself. And I'm thrilled to have you here with me, Monica. And yes, it's my birthday.
Yes, it's your birthday. Yeah, and I realized I didn't even know what kind of like flavor cake. I just learned a couple minutes ago about the gluten-free and flour. Like, I had no idea. I feel like I know so much about you from your book on such an emotional level, but I don't even know what your your favorite flavor cake is, or like what is it? I don't even know
Yeah.
that.
You know, my growing up, it absolutely Baskin and Robbins peanut butter and chocolate ice cream cake was
Okay.
the number. I mean, I have a best friend that I grew up dancing at the ballet bar from age 6, and her birthday's March 3rd, and we would always get that cake together and do our 6 hours of dancing on Saturday, and then we'd go. Baskin Robbins was like right down the street. We'd run down there and get ourselves a cake, and then we'd go over to one of our houses and just, devour it. So that I don't even know if Baskin Robbins is around anymore in
Oh
Portland,
yeah,
but there's like
there's definitely Baskin Robbins for sure.
those chunks of peanut butter were so
Mm-hmm.
good. I don't think anybody's been able to do it right since then. Like they'll have or they'll do gourmet versions with pretzels and swirls. And I'm like, give me just a giant chunk of peanut butter in my ice cream, please.
Well, I didn't know this baskiness in that type of chocolate, and I was at IGA yesterday, and I was like thinking carrot cake because of your love for animals. I was thinking of rabbits, and I was like, I don't know about that. And then I did see a Mississippi mud pie, like chocolate, but then in the cooler in the back was a orange crush cake, which was the color of Tang. And so, in our first conversation, I discovered that you harvest kiwis. So I kind of added a little bit to this crush cake. So I did get you an orange crush cake. With I cut up some kiwis on it. But what I'm most excited about, here it is.
Monica!
But it really is like,
No.
'cause I think you're crushing it. I just discovered you, and I think you're absolutely crushing it. I think this year for you, you're gonna continue to crush it. Your age, it's just a number. But what I'm really proud of is this candle. It's like a kiwi candle holder,
Oh, that's brilliant.
and I
Oh,
couldn't figure out. So either we do this now or later, but we definitely need to, let's just do it now.
let's do it now. Yeah.
I'm gonna, and I didn't even mean for that to happen, but look
This
what I
is the
did.
sweetest thing. I'm so glad we're recording this.
So I don't know, but it's a tang stripe, and
For
it smells like if you had a 12-liter or like a 12 pack of like Crush explode in cardboard. That's kind of what it smells like. So I'm gonna go like this and just make a wish, and then we'll see the just
Okay, I'm
you
breathing
gonna
it in and I'm filling, and for Tang is his spirit is here because he's part of this whole Tang crushing it. And I'm
okay.
gonna blow out. Okay, so let's do this coordinated, okay? On the count of 3. And you blow while I
That
blow.
well, I was gonna do that, but now you're taking out the magic of
Oh,
it. I was totally gonna do that. So just you do that, and then we'll see what happens.
okay. Gotta send
You
out
need
my
a countdown?
Yep.
All right,
1.
5, 4, or you wanna start at 1?
I
We'll start at
started
5. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did it work? Okay,
That's awesome. Wow. I
but
feel
it's not gluten-free, so I will eat it later if that's okay.
that's absolutely share it with your beautiful children and your
Alright, we'll do.
husband. They're gonna love it.
Will do.
It's so thoughtful. Oh my god. For those 2 that don't know, that don't know who's this Tang person, I just wrote about Tang last week, and well, or 2 weeks ago or something, and it's just I've never been dumped by a man in my life, but I was dumped by a cat, and it was like the most heartbreaking experience. Happy end of the story. Tang is I just got a photo yesterday from the neighbor. Tang is curled up on her daughter's bed, and she's spooning him, and they are happy as ever, and he's healed up from his surgery. And Monica decided to take all the photos that I
Okay,
shared in my essay and put
we're
them on
good.
freaking socks. And so now I have Tang socks even. So yes, this is why I believe Monica is an angel.
No, definitely not.
Okay, let's talk about you.
Okay.
This is at first let's because this actually is Unfixed Uncut. I want to know I'm actually really excited to get to know who you are more. But let's start with just one of these really meaty questions. Is there anything in your life that you've never, ever, ever been able to fix? And has that been actually kind of a good thing or saved you?
Yeah, it's so interesting. You just before we got on this live, you're like, "This is what I'm gonna ask you." I didn't realize that was the question. You said you would ask it. I'm like, I didn't realize that was the question, but I really think there's a reason that I found you and this book because as I was reading your book, I was like, "What is it? What is that for me?" And I think this is such an opportunity working through this book club for myself to kind of navigate taking time, slowing down, and listening like what do I feel that is unfixed or something that I maybe don't know that needs to be fixed or that. So I feel like there's a reason that I discovered this book the way I did, and I really cannot answer that question, and I think that is why I found this book and
Mhm.
discovered you to be going on this journey, not only with the fellow crew members, but I think this is gonna be kind of a individual journey as well as a group with the crew.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm excited to see what surfaces and as I'm doing this along with everyone else.
Well, I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna ask you that question again in about, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and see if you have an answer to it in 5 weeks. How about that? After or while we're toasting on the boat with tequila.
Oh, no, I don't know about that.
So tell me a little bit about your process, Monica, because I know that this exploring a book and making it more of a personal experience is something that is really why you've created Charter Book Club Adventures. But like, how did that start for you?
Well, I would say that my first experience was I had done work through a book called Selfish by Stephanie Shostak, and I just turned 40, and I just felt like I was in a season of life, like, What am I doing? Like, what? I have 5 kiddos, and I feel like parts of me had become quiet or just almost living in a shell of, like, who I used to be, and my work through Selfish really allowed, like, a a space to have grace and to really what did I like about school? Why did I love reading so much? And that doing the work through that book, Charter Book Club Adventures, emerged from all of those passions that I once had. That light had kind of been dimmed, just my energy and passions had been just put in other places, and everything just kind of clicked working through that, and just doing what I love doing, and that's reading, bringing people together, and creating. I think it's just kind of fun from a book, and that
Yeah.
first came from, again, looking back on that experience or planning is I loved school, like, I loved being in literature class, I loved being in language arts. Some of those early books to just you mean we get to drop everything and read? Something was called, like, "Dear, drop everything." I'm like, "We get to stop everything and read for 15 minutes? This is
Yeah.
amazing." And
Wow.
so those first memories of reading, I cherished. There were absolute times for just I could go off into imagination and daydream and create in my mind.
How sweet. Do you have any favorites? Do you remember from childhood that you just were like a complete escape or that you had complete resonance with?
For sure. The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle. It's by Avi, AVI, and that was 7th grade. Um, yeah, I don't know if you know the story. It's a
Mm.
girl, her name's Charlotte, which is wild because Charlotte's Web was one of my favorite. I mean, there's no connection between the spider and a young girl who's 13 on a transatlantic voyage from England to America, and she's aboard a ship, and there's mutiny, there's a murder. But to be able to I mean, I was a 7th grader at the time and just switching classes, and then I got to go to this language arts class, and that book was an adventure. Like, I we got to work in groups. I remember one day the teacher handed us folders, and on front of the folder, it was like we had jobs. There was a timekeeper, there was a connector, there was, a task manager, and I was like, "Wait a second. We get to read this book, and now you're giving we get to have jobs, like, while we're reading this book?" And my that teacher, Mrs. Gimmigan, I love her. I ended up getting to work with her when I became a teacher. She was at my former junior high, and just like a full circle moment, like, she just fostered that just kinda thinking outside the box. I mean, this would have been like in the '90s, we got to we weren't sitting in rows, we were sitting in circles, we were facing each other. We were able to talk about this book, and we were able to work together and do projects, and
Mm.
yeah, I just remember doing a project for The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle, and we got to make infomercials, and we got to create just wasn't like reading, take a test, reading vocab. We got to
Yeah.
live out the story, and those are I yeah, I can still go back and remember the sounds of that classroom, the smell of the book, and just so that would be, I would say, the first story that kinda did it for me.
And she really opened that up for you. I mean, that was all on her to, create this like what you're doing now with Charter Book Club Adventures. I mean, the book becomes just almost like you said, like a doorway for a whole nother life to happen. Are we going to be assigned roles in the book club?
Well, we're gonna be on a sailboat, so we will have roles on the sailboat, but
Mhm.
within our virtual experience, I mean, those roles will kinda be your inner roles, but then, yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
being a good listener, I mean, we'll talk about
Yeah.
just like, "Hey, like, how can we support each other on this?" But I won't be handing out virtual folders, so no worrying about Taskmaster or, like, any of the connecting, any of that. You won't have to, like, check off that, so
We won't make any infomercials based on the
I
book.
mean, there's always that possibility to throw in an infomercial. The infomercial was on hardtack. Like, I remember we sat upside down and we covered up, like, these are the eyes. I'll recreate that on the boat. But we sat upside down and, like, this was the eye and this was the nose.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's all coming back. I'm sure I could find the video in my parents' archived basement. But yeah, we might do infomercials. We'll see.
So this teacher, what was her name?
Mrs. Gimmigan, Leanne Gimmigan.
So I wonder, I mean, so many of us probably have that one teacher that really lit something up in us. I know my husband has a few of them actually that he talks about that were just extremely pivotal in a child's life. And this could be even like first grade. Do you like what you just named some of the qualities, but what are some of the qualities of those teachers that you really admire that are that transcend academia.
Yeah, I think, again, early, even before Mrs. Gimmigan, I think of just kindergarten, sitting around in a circle, having the teacher hold a book a certain way, like open it out. And my parents used to do the same thing reading to us, like just seeing the pages. And it's funny because even our daughter now will like lick her thumb a certain way, like just being so observant of like what modeling how the teacher is doing it. And I
Mm,
remember just circle time in kindergarten, Mrs. Kerr just coming in, sitting down, settling in, being able to see pictures and just slowing down. Hey, what are you noticing on this page? Um,
mm,
yeah, I mean, I think there's just a tenderness, there's just a compassion if I look back at all of those teacher, and they also just allowed for that curiosity. It wasn't forced. It was, we're going to open this book and let's kind of see what happens.
yeah,
So I would say there's kind of that weaving of those qualities of just kind of an open heart, let's be curious, and
mhm,
it's okay to ask questions while also we can kind of daydream a little bit and use our imagination.
yeah. I There's a story that Dave tells that I love, Mrs. Weingarten. I don't even know why I know the name, but he's told this story so many times. And I think it was 2nd grade, and there was a boy in the classroom that was, um, mostly deaf. Not fully deaf, but mostly, and was a really good lip reader. So on day 1 of this 2nd grade class, Dave remembers the teacher pulling out this just god awful orange lipstick and having the little boy come up to the front of the class, and she put it on, and she did a couple different shades. There were a couple at first that was like a reddish one, and she wanted to see which one was the most pronounced for him, and it was this god awful orange one, and she wore that lipstick every day for the rest of the year.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I mean, I'm just thinking, but then the fact that Dave remembered that really was, yeah, she was just making sure that he could, hear her communicating, but she was demonstrating deep, deep empathy and agency, allowing him to have agency and dignity and all of that. And those kind of lessons lasted for Dave, to be observing this. And I just like, yeah, there's so much more. So you don't teach anymore.
Mm-mm.
Do you have any I mean, you probably have some students that you remember that just stole your heart. How do you continue those relationships with them, or how do you let them go when you feel such a deep bond with them? Like, what's that been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I being a teacher and a coach, it's such a short window when I did junior high, and it's like just those 2 years that it does. It goes by so fast. And sometimes I do run to. There was just a couple years ago, I ran into a former student. It was back to school time. I was getting school supplies at the time for 4 out of the 5 of our kiddos, and I was just like, and he was like, "Mrs. Ticknor," and I was like, I think I called him, like, Brandon, but it was Brendan. I'm like, I was just so flustered. And he's like, "What are you like, how are you?" I'm like, "Good." I'm like, "How are you?" Like, I was like, "It's so good to see you." And I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing now?" And he was like, one of my first classes, and he's like, "I became a teacher." I'm like, "Oh my," and I started crying. I'm
Oh,
like, "What? You became a teacher?" He's like, "Yeah, I love being in your classroom." I was just I just started
oh.
crying just because I was just so overwhelmed with, like, getting that 4 stick of glue, getting those scissors. And he's like, "What are you doing? Are you still teaching?" And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I'm getting school supplies, but it was such a time in his life that that whole group of kiddos was one of my last groups that I before I stayed home full time with my own kiddos, my own crew, but it was just
Wow.
seeing him and seeing like he was doing what he loved doing and I made some small little speck of just some type of impact that he then wanted to become a teacher. I was just like, "Oh my gosh, that's incredible." So when those moments happen, it's just, yeah, it's all you don't really remember quite, okay, did I do that lesson right? Or did we have fun? Did they feel comfortable being in there? Like, did they feel good when they walked out of my classroom? That was really what was important to me is that they could just be who they were. They felt comfortable. And then, yeah, they kind of go off with that little piece and then they kind of go off and do bigger things. So
Yeah.
seeing that, it's always fun running into former students and athletes.
I don't think you know the impact that you ha I mean, the im I'm saying in general, I think often we don't know the impact that we have on the world. We're just doing our thing. We're wired in a certain way. We communicate in a way, we with our curiosity and whatever, and we never know how lasting some of those connections can be. And from those quirkiest moments that might involve really orange gaudy lipstick, like we just don't know. And I want to say that you really, I mean, you are continuing to have that lasting effect. And it sounds like motherhood, pulled you out of some of that awareness of how you were impacting other than your own kiddos, but how you were impacting the world. And it sounds like you're stepping into a place now where you're ready for a version of that again out in the world. And
For
that's
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even teaching, yeah, I would love to get back into this is kind of the first year my kiddos are back in school. So it is kind of like how could I use what I loved about teaching, possibly going back in the classroom and doing this is kind of all of those things that I loved about being in the classroom.
Mm, wow. So when you go through, take us through like how does this curriculum work? Because I know you worked with Unfixed this next month. What does that look like? I know we're going to meet tomorrow and talk about it, but I haven't read it yet. So read your curriculum.
Yeah. So I mean, first, as an example, is you just kind of, hey, like, what are you noticing? Like, we're going to just slow it down. Our first with this framework is the read. First session is just reflect, dropping anchor. Where are we? Where are you in your life? Where do you feel? Kind of the question you just asked me is like, where do you feel is something unsettled or feeling a little unfixed? So the framework I created, it's just super basic. I love a good acronym. And so
Mhm.
READ just stands for reflect, explore, adventure, discover. And that's what the 4 weeks are based off of.
Mhm.
Um, our first call is we're kind of gonna reflect on friendship because I know, Jenny, in your story, that first kind of childhood friendship, we're gonna kind of take that experience you had and just share amongst our group as to just what was your earliest memory of friendship and just
Mhm.
reflecting on what that felt like. What qualities did you like about that friendship? What did you do in that friendship? And so it's really just slowing down. I mean, it's not about, we got to read through chapter 4 and then we're going to go through these discussion questions. It's going to be more
Yeah.
using your text as kind of that anchoring piece. And then how can we connect to it? How can we apply it to our own life? And so
Wow.
the curriculum is just based off of your experience and then using your experience, using what you went through and kind of just related it to our own story, our own life.
Oh, I love that so much. Now I want to invite Jenny to join us. She
You
was just
should.
we
I was wondering if is that the one who has the birthday on 3/3? Is that the
no,
or is that a di okay.
different friend, but Jenny, I mean, we were just texting. Oh, I was like, "She's just gonna text me right now." We are terrible at long distance communication, so we still love adore each other, and she was just texting me this long, long, long text about a month ago or 3 weeks ago and said, "We have to see each other in person this year," and, there's this through the book, I think it brought back a lot for her own, early childhood years and the way that we shaped each other even, and
Mhm.
so, um, I'm gonna to send her a text and see if she wants to join. I
Yeah, that was one of my questions was, what is your relationship now? Because that was gut-wrenching that, you
Mm,
described you're, like, watching her kind of drive off into the sunset and, you didn't have Instagram, you didn't have text messages. I can't even imagine that how that friendship
yeah.
how that all
Yeah, it was the first real loss I ever remember feeling. I was 12 years old when she and I think I wrote in the book, like, it was just, I had so much denial. That was the way I dealt with it. It was like I thought she was just saying it at school to get attention, you know? I'm like, "You're not leaving." And when she pulled away with the moving truck, I was like, all of a sudden, my denial could not, hold up any longer, and we wrote letters. I went to some of her church camps for a few years, but we just were both of us are not good long distance, and so that we never lost each other, but we never were also tracking each other in our lives. And then yeah, so that's going to be a really rich first book club question. I feel so honored, and I would imagine your other authors do too when you do this. It's just um, I think the biggest hope we can ever have when we write something, at least with a memoir, is that our stories are felt as universal. We don't want them to just be like, and then this happened to me, and then this happened. We want people to read and close their eyes and go, oh, it's like it meets something in them and offers a little glimmer of possibility that maybe they didn't sense before. And so I don't even know where this is gonna go, but okay, so that's the first week, and then the next week, RE, Explore. So what happens
so
with
the
Explore?
Explorer is just kinda like so what happened in that first week? What maybe there was something in that friendship, like, what did you miss about her? Was it that she was I mean, I'm just using this as an example, but was it her loyalty? Was it just her heart? Was there an adventure? Did you feel safe? So really exploring what arose when you thought about those early friendships or those early experiences of friendship, and whether it was a loss or whether it was you broke up or like what you just said that was maybe one of your first experiences or like you just shared of kind of like losing someone who you loved, who you had a connection with, and just not being able to see them every day. I mean, that's a loss at an early I mean, it's such a transformative age as a 12-year-old. I mean, she was as first grade, you shared shoelace races and it was your first secret. So I mean, that was
Mhm.
your safety at such a young age. And so the exploring part is what was it that I felt in that friendship? Is it safety? Is it loyalty? Is it love? Like, where are you wanting to explore in your own life? Where do I feel safe? Where
Yeah,
do I feel lost? Where do I feel grief that has not been brought to the surface?
yeah.
So it's definitely like a slow pace into explore. And then with each week, there's reflection focuses and all of it is it's your pace. Like I call it a digital voyage plan, but there's a captain's log that each person will keep, whether that's you want to journal or you want a voice memo or you want to draw. So it's super open to just how do you want to record, this experience for you. And so it's the same format every week. It's a reflection, it's an anchoring question, and then there's an action piece that I call um like taking it into the wind or catching the wind for the week. Like as a sailing term, like, what are you doing with that action? Like, how are you gonna have momentum behind it? So whether
Mhm.
that be you write Ginny a letter,
Cool.
or you maybe just take 10 minutes for yourself and really give yourself time to think and reflect and explore, what am I missing in my life right now? And do I wanna be, like, more social? Do I need to take care of my health? So there's different differentiated ways to do that for the practices, but the questions change each week, but the format's the same.
Mhm.
And then just at the end, there's just a couple gentle reminders of just kind of like a positive little each week. And then the adventure will be kind of different for the in person. It'll
Yeah.
kind of be next level of just the crew that's going sailing. Everyone's journey is unique, and that's what I love about it. Things that could come up just within you doing the virtual only, and there could be a whole different experience you don't even know is like within you that comes out during week 3. Because week 3 is you're stepping into the unknown. And I'm a big Joseph Campbell. I mean, I think your story is that is the epitome of the hero's journey, and I really think all of us go on that all of us live that hero's journey, and I think the adventure piece is even people saying yes to the book club. I have no idea who this person is. She does a book club, but I'm gonna, like, step into it, and it's just kinda keeping your eyes on the horizon, starting to lose, like, "I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna do it." So the adventure piece is very literal, but also super metaphorical, like, what are you
Mhm.
stepping into? Whether that's something within you or actually stepping onto this boat, throwing up on the side because 'cause you're so seasick from tequila or whatever it is you're doing, drinking like a pirate. But, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a super unique journey for that adventure piece, what surfaces. And then the last week is just, you're kinda just, "What did I discover? What just happened on this last week?" Like, what surfaced? What am I now aware of? What is lighting me up in a way that I wanna carry that forward now after these 4 weeks?
Wow.
And so the discovery piece at the end is gonna be writing a love letter to yourself, because you write about letters to Charlie, and I think that's such an amazing way you did that in your book to, like, connect with those parts of your life. I mean, that to me was reading it, I could feel how healing that would be. So I
Mhm.
wanted to include that in this journey, and so it's a letter to yourself. What do you love? What have you learned about yourself? And then we could totally release those at sea in a bottle, or you could just throw it in a bottle, put it on your shelf if you're doing the virtual only, but doing a love letter then at the very end of just what was highlighted, what do I wanna carry with me now?
Wow. What an incredible honoring of a I mean, honestly, I feel all shimmery because we when we write a book, we don't imagine that people will digest them so deeply. It might it's you're giving it you're turning it into an entity. You're giving it limbs so that it can walk into the world and embrace other people. And so, first of all, just thank you for. I feel so honored. Um, how did the nautical part of this become? Because, you know, obviously my book has a lot of water themes, but this is not just like you're designed for this book. You've done the sailing before with the other authors. So how did this come about?
The nautical piece, again, that came about when I was doing the work through Selfish, the book Selfish. I had this wild opportunity. I got to take 2 of my forever friends. I got to meet the author in New York, have a lunch. And from that experience of, like, stepping away from everyday life, going into literally the unknown of New York City, never been there, navigating the subways, doing all this fun stuff with 2 of my just forever friends. And then one of the last days, we weren't even gonna do it. It was like where you take the boat and you do the skyline tour. We just did all the stuff we were gonna do. We're like, "Yes, let's try that. Yes, let's do that." And I was just blown away by we're on this boat, and then there's a sailboat just going under the bridge, and I've always loved water, the ocean. My grandfather really, was highlighted during my work of just I had a lot of just love for my grandpa. He was one of the people that I'd really reflected on during that work. He made ships. He was very nautical. He would make these I have one I think I showed you that the wooden He was just amazing craftsman, and I've just always loved nautical stripes and just the ocean. Never been on a sailboat, always wanted to be on a sailboat. I just thought, how cool would it be to take a group of women sailing? And it just the first time I did it with a group of a book club, it was incredible. It's really hard to put into words. The experience of being on a boat, working together, yeah, it was just so then the nautical theme, I actually had the nautical theme before ever stepping on a sailboat. I just something about books, adventure, the horizon, parts of a ship, I was always intrigued by it.
The metaphor works really well with any sort of story because you have a launch into sea, you have the unknown that you're stepping into, you have the returning to the safe harbor. I mean, there is definitely a good metaphor there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then with your book, I didn't even know that your book had such connections, deep connections to, like, sailing life, and so, after we had initially spoke and then I read your book, then I was like, "Oh my goodness, like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
gonna happen."
that's one of those where I thought, like I said, if this um unfortunately, and I think the New York Times just did an article on this, but like authors are getting scammed like crazy right now. I get so many bad emails every day now that are really well written because of AI, but they're just like, we're inviting you to do this book club. And and they even say out of the gates that there's no investment involved. And so you think, well, of course, why wouldn't this be spam? And then you take a couple steps in and it's just a bunch of garbage. So my first thought when I got yours was like, another one of those. But then I'm like, this is weird though, like a sailing trip. Like that's not didn't hear about that one before. And then um I I just assumed that once we got a little bit further in through our DMs that maybe you had read the book. But then when we connected, I was like, okay, this you hadn't even read the book yet. I had to believe that somewhere along the line, my biological father was just setting this up because I think he just wants me to get on a sailboat. I mean, out of all the people in the universe that wrote a book this year, why me? So
Yeah,
I,
because then I think after we spoke, I think I ordered it. I was like, I gotta read this book." And then I think that was when you were going to Colorado, and then I got it on a Friday. I got it in the evening. I had to read before midnight. Like, I was, like, listening to his music. I'm like, "This is crazy. This is so good." And I read it within, like, 5.5 hours.
oh God.
Yeah, I couldn't I went all in. I finished it that night I got it.
Wow. You, might have a book in you, I guess is my question, because this passion of yours is very clear and it has been alive and well in you for a long, long time. And it not necessarily that it has to take the shape of you writing your own book, but do you feel like there is a story in you?
I mean, as a kid, I loved those young author competitions. Like, I loved doing all of that. I loved stapling, putting the book together. I mean, I loved, like, ripping off the little spiral, making a cover. I remember when I first got my first, like, laminated when we got to make the teachers had those machines where it was like, the plastic binding where it would just, like, we do one of those, like,
Yeah.
almost like a corn cob, like, on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
side. Man, once we got those books when we were I think it was 1st grade where each kid got to make a scene, and then the teacher put it all in like that. That was amazing. But yeah, I mean, I've always making a story about that, or I think my mind just naturally creates narratives, and I used to
Do you
tell a
have a
story.
story? What
I
was
mean,
one of your stories from from childhood?
I mean, I used to tell a story when I was teaching plot to my 7th graders. I to get to see what they thought of it, and then I was like, "That's actually the story that I wanna write someday," or like, "This is a story that I'm coming up with," just to get them really excited about it and get them to challenge me. "Oh, no, Mrs. Ticknor, that's a horrible idea." But I would use, like, the narrative arc based off of a story that I had always just thought about would be kind of just a fun story to write, and they would give me true feedback, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
instant feedback as a 7th and 8th grader.
And was it pretty good feedback?
Oh, yeah, it was, "That's no way you thought of that. No way. That's
Oh,
so
man.
cool." Or, "No,
Okay,
you can't
so
do that."
you're either gonna write it or you're gonna tell us right now what that story is.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
No, 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 you don't have
It's
to
not gonna it wouldn't be an audible, so I think if I tell you now, that would count as an audible, so I think it needs to be
Right, yeah, we don't wanna use it as an audible yet. No way.
Yeah, I think I need to do what you did. I'd have to, like, start it through Substack. No, I mean, it was just a fun way to no way. I mean, there was not anything on my radar of, like, "I wanna write a book." That's not
Yeah,
It's just more fun to think of and just daydream, but I definitely have no desire to.
yeah. Oh, but you are. I mean, it sounds you really are chewing on narratives and playing with arcs, and you're playing with the human in real life arc of people's lives as you take them through these adventures. You were doing it with children, so that narrative arc is seems like it's really leading you, even though it might not take the shape of a book.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's fair. Yeah, that counts.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, because I was just down, as you know, in LA with our lovely Mary Tabor with the launch of her book, and her first book was published when she turned 60. So you've got time, Monica. Got plenty of time. I mean, isn't that inspiring to know that we can
That is incredible.
yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah, seeing you 2, I think yeah, you guys were just so elegant and just super inspiring. I had no idea that I just assumed she had been a writer her entire life when that was shared. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, she is quite masterful. And I was a little bit like intimidated to be her interviewer because as you could even tell, she's got so many different layers and themes going. Um, yeah, and I think she probably had a career in academia prior to that, but never wrote her first book until 60. So
Well,
I
you
get
did amazing. I loved how your skirt, like, matched the cover. Did you plan that? I feel like your skirt
no.
totally matched the cover of her birth, like, that's so fitting. It, like, matches, and I thought
Oh my
it seemed
God, you're
so
right.
it seemed just yeah, it seemed and I didn't realize was that at her house? It seems
Yeah.
so intimate, but also just very celebratory, and you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mary did a lovely job too. And like all of us here on Substack, there is something so sweet about connecting with people in real life after all these deep relationships have formed. And I'll tell you what, in this audience, we had, I can't remember, I didn't count, but I think at least 10 people from Substack that were there. And one of them even drove all the way up from San Diego. And so that was quite a trip for her to make. And it was so dear, so, so, so dear to know that these relationships transcend the screen, but I think are founded in the way that we share here through real intention and reciprocity. And that's something that you are fostering in your work too, Monica. So it's a treasure to get to go on this adventure with you. Is there anything you want to say before we end about if anyone's listening and they want to join this book club because there is still room, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we have 1 spot left for the sailing, which we totally, um it's gonna be cozy on that sailboat, but there is 1 spot left. As far as the virtual, yeah, I mean, we're starting next Wednesday, but definitely if there's someone watching or
Oh wait,
asking you a
start
question or
Sunday.
Jenny wants to do it. So we're starting the in-person
So
sailing
that
group. We're starting Sunday, and then Wednesday next week, the 4th, is the virtual part. And even if someone is watching and they've never read the book, I mean, you don't have to like have it read by. It's literally come as you are. You know, maybe don't even need the book the first week. So yeah, definitely reach out to me or to Kimberly, and if you're feeling pulled to join, definitely would love to welcome you aboard and yeah, join the adventure.
join the adventure. And I want to say, I have to, well, first of all, I will reach out to Jenny, But then I have to say, I just saw Laura join just a moment ago. And Laura, okay, I was flashing, hi, Laura. I was flashing back to her when we started this conversation because she did something so special. And I'll share this with you, Monica, because you will relate since you're this type of person too. When I finished serializing my book, and I think it had been a year and a half of sharing it every Sunday and gathering all these beautiful lovelies all over the world. And but I'm like, how do I end this? Because it's over. And now do I lose these people? And, it just felt kind of weird, almost like anticlimactic. Well, I got this email from Laura that said, well, I want to celebrate you and another dear
Aw.
following along, Chloe in the UK. Obviously, virtually, she could be with us, but what she ended up doing is taking photographs of her door and then the walk through the front pathway of the house and then led me through the dining room and then to a table, and she set the table with like little cheese and
Aw.
chocolate and champagne flutes to toast, all of these photographs so that I could virtually sit down and have this very special celebration with Chloe and Laura. And I will cherish that experience for the rest of my life. It was just truly such a dear. So now, Laura, that you're listening, Monica, will you please share the tang cake again? And then
It's
we'll end.
still I don't know what happened to the candle. The candle got a little,
Oh,
but the candle, I don't even know how that happens, but this is the centerpiece inside. But yeah, it's a
this is.
orange orange crush cake. I mean, inspired by your love for Tang
Oh,
and kiwis, so
and kiwis. So the best birthday gift ever, and the best really sweet hour to share with you, Monica. Thank you for doing this with me on my birthday, so that I could, introduce your awesomeness to some of my people, and then whoever wants to join us next month, we hope you will. Well, we will welcome you aboard.
for sure, that's absolutely correct, yes. We'll have a cake and celebration for sure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Monica. Have a
Thank you
lovely
so
day.
much. Alright,
Bye.
bye.